The O'Reilly Factor's on tonight.
People want to shake each other's hands. They want to talk to each other.
When my daughter came home from school, my first thought was, are you serious?
The Ebola panic rolling into the USA as the first victim might have come into contact with more than 100 people. What should the federal government do? We will tell you.
New revelations that an armed contractor with a criminal history rode an elevator with President Obama during a recent trip to Atlanta.
What's that all about? White House correspondent Ed Henry has the inside story. He will be here. Also ahead, they are now calling it shock and yawn. As some experts believe, the ISIS bombing is doing very little. We'll talk with Colonel Ralph Peters about that. Caution, you are about to enter the no-spin zone. The fact, it begins right now. Hi, I'm Bill O'Reilly. Thanks for watching us tonight. The Ebola panic. That is the subject of this evening's Talking Points memo. All over the country, people are discussing the deadly disease Ebola. Brand new Fox News poll asks, how concerned are you Ebola will spread to the USA? 68% concerned, 31% not so much. But as you may know, the disease is already here in Texas. Here are the facts. Liberian national Thomas Duncan currently being treated for Ebola at a Dallas hospital where he's in serious but stable condition. Duncan arrived in the USA on September 20th. Prior to that, he had helped a 19-year-old woman in Liberia who was ill. That woman died from Ebola. A few days after her death, Duncan, apparently outwardly healthy, boarded a plane in Monrovia, flew to Brussels, Belgium, changed planes, then flew on to Dulles Airport in Washington, where he again changed planes and went to Dallas. On September 24th, Duncan begins to have symptoms of Ebola. On September 26th, 2 days later, he goes to the Dallas Presbyterian Hospital, where he's examined and sent home with medication. On September 28th, Duncan is taken by ambulance back to Presbyterian, where he's properly diagnosed with Ebola. But here's the shocking thing. Before the ambulance arrived, Reuters is reporting that Duncan was seen vomiting in the parking lot of the apartment building where he was staying. Ebola is spread by bodily fluids. Dallas authorities now estimate that up to 100 people, some of them children, may have had direct or secondhand contact with Duncan. So in Dallas right now, there is grave concern.
When my daughter came home from school, my first thought was, like any concerned parent, are you serious?
I just started crying. I was like hysterical, so.
I was just wanting to get to my kids, so I went and got them.
People want to shake each other's hands. They want to talk to each other. They scared to go into the restroom.
It's scary, real scary.
They need to tell us what child it is, because, I mean, if it was in their class, I'm going to be 10 times more pissed than I already am.
So that's where we are. Many people frightened and angry that Ebola may spread throughout the USA. So what should the federal government do? Since it is Washington's obligation under the Constitution to provide for the common good. First of all flights from West Africa should immediately be discontinued to the USA. And Europe should do the same thing. Now, I feel sorry for the West African nations, but there's an epidemic of Ebola there, and it will spread because the incubation period lasts for up to 21 days. Also, U.S. immigration should allow no one to enter this country holding a passport from any West African nation. And that policy should last until the Ebola epidemic subsides in Africa. As you may know, many people hold irrational fears, and that's contagious as well. Once Ebola starts spreading around the country, chaos will follow. Therefore, West Africans should not be admitted to the USA until the epidemic is controlled. In cases of life and death, you must err on the side of caution. So President Obama should order right now an immigration quarantine from those areas. And that's the memo. Now for the top story tonight. Reaction with us here in New York City, Andrea Tantaris and Alan Combs. So Combs, we have some information today that Utah authorities are looking at some strange occurrences. And you know what this is. This is going to permeate around. Already everybody's talking about it. So my plan makes perfect sense, does it not?
It does not.
It does not.
This is scaring people. This is scaremongering, and this is what the media is doing. Scaremongering with ISIS, scaremongering with Ebola, and this is what the media does.
All right, so you would let anybody from these countries in?
What happens is when they get on a plane in West Africa, they are checked to see if they have a temperature. If they have any symptoms whatsoever, they don't get on the plane.
All right, so you're putting the security of the American people in the hands of West African
I am
authorities.
suggesting that what the World Health Organization says and what the CDC here says, that to have to quarantine and not let people here is a terrible overreaction. Also, it's got negative possible consequences. You're quarantining a country. We need to get medical personnel in and out.
Well, that quarantine wouldn't apply to medical personnel.
You're hurting the country.
All right. And you say?
I say, you're insane.
Thank you for letting me know that.
Alan's insane.
Yeah, well, we've known that for many, many years. But under a program where we hire the insane, just a few.
Yeah.
Well,
Andrea, I'm part of affirmative action.
Oh, yeah. Right. We fill our quota check.
No, back it up now, Tanteros.
Well,
back up my insanity, too.
We're going to rely on the West African nations that clearly cannot contain this virus. And by the way, Bill, barely believe in modern medicine or have the ability to treat anybody in their country. We're going to trust them, that they're going to make sure that no one with Ebola gets on a plane. Well, this gentleman came to our country. We're also going to trust that anyone coming here is going to be honest and candid with us. That they're going to admit that
that's an excellent point, because people in West Africa, no, they're not going to get cured in West Africa. But in the United States, if they could get here, they'll be cured.
Well, and also,
so there is an incentive for people who are ill to get here. But let me get with Combs one more time.
By the way, we sent thousands of military personnel to West Africa to create clinics, to work with these people.
And that's a noble thing that the USA always does. But those are professional people who are under strict guidelines on what to do and not to do. Now, you got this guy vomiting, according to Reuters. Reuters and the New York Times, by the way. The New York Times, excellent reporting on this whole thing. And Reuters reports this guy has been vomiting in a parking lot.
Yes.
Oh, come on. Combs, I mean, this has got to be taken seriously.
Of course, but to overreact and say,
no, address that. Address a man with Ebola vomiting in a parking lot where people live. Address it.
It is one isolated incident in this country.
It's not isolated. It's the only one, and this is what happened.
But that doesn't mean you go and ban an entire
So what would you do? You would do nothing.
What we're doing is properly sending people to West Africa to help that country.
But people coming here, you wouldn't do anything at all to stop them from coming.
At this point, no.
Okay.
At this point,
and let me predict
it's
something.
An overreaction.
All right, Andrew. Let me predict something. This will happen, what I'm saying? It will happen. Okay, Andrea, go.
And we are not equipped to handle this here, Bill. The Nurses Association has said that we are, quote, wholly unprepared to deal with this. They feel unprepared. One patient can shut down a hospital. And by the way, one of the things you need to treat people with Ebola are IV fluids. Guess what there's a shortage of in the United States right now? IV fluids. So the administration could also make more of these drugs available. And they said, oh, the private sector is going to take care of it. Well, a lot of these drug patents need to be sped up as well.
I want to be very, very clear. I don't expect the United States to experience an epidemic of Ebola. I don't. But under the Constitution, the federal government primary mandate is to protect us. And as I said, in life and death, you err on the side of caution.
A few months ago, we had MERS, Middle Eastern Respiratory Syndrome, which is even more contagious than Ebola. We didn't quarantine then. We didn't need to do it then. We don't need to do it now.
But Alan, you've already got it wrong, though. The president already came to the podium and said confidently it won't end up here. And you know what? It has. So we're going to trust people, Bill, that they're going to come to this country and they're actually going to go to a hospital? We can't even rely on that. We had a patient go to a hospital and the hospital released him. I'm glad you have so much faith in the human intelligence and the human spirit, Andrea, Alan, but I don't.
You are scaremongering and you are hurting the country by scaring people.
You are living in a fantasy world,
if you were living in revolutionary times, you would have said Paul Revere is a scaremonger.
Yeah.
I mean, because he's gonna, hey, get off that pony, all right? Because
I'm not quite sure about that,
we are alerting people. We are trying to minimize a very serious situation. But all right, Combs, you're entitled to your
one case, and you can only spread it through.
There could be another thing in Utah. We're taking a look at that right now, and there's going to be a whole bunch of other things pop up, believe me. All right, good debate, everybody. When we come back, Laura Ingraham, by the way, I'll have more on this later on. Next on the rundown, shock and yawn. That's what some military experts are calling the bombing of ISIS. We'll take a hard look. And later, why is the Secret Service falling apart? Doctor's coming. Right back.